You interested in getting into player development? Do you really want to get into it? Do you want to know some steps that you can take to get into player development? I'm doing a 5 episode series that will help you understand and help you make the right choices that can get you on the path of getting into player development. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Ed Jones II, and I am the host of this podcast, the Player Development Podcast. This podcast exists to bring exposure to the player development field. One of the greatest questions I get all the time is, how do I get into player development? Honestly, with you all here, this series was birthed out of a phone call I had in an airport last week. I put out a post on social media that talked about, what I've told people who want to get in this role. And I'm like, you know what? I've had over 500 plus conversations on phone, in person about player development. I'm going to make this series and I'm just going to turn everybody to this series. But I want to help you all. There's a lot of you all that are sports management students. A lot of you all may be transitioning careers in athletics or coming from outside athletics who want to know about player development. So this 5 episode series is for you. So tune in. I want you to listen to all of them. As you're learning about player development, wanting to get in player development, doing your research is important. It is very important. You need to figure out the role. And in figuring out the role, you need to figure out who you want to talk to. There are a plethora of professionals who are willing to talk to you about player development. Matter of fact, jump to season 2 of this podcast. I interviewed 15 of them. Okay. But you need to figure out who you want to talk to. So once you figure out who you want to talk to, the second thing is, what can you find out about them? Like I said, I have a lot of interviews on season 2, a lot of episodes where I'm talking to player development professionals, and these people are incredible and they want to help people. Now their schedules won't allow them to talk to everybody. So you go listen to a podcast. Another thing you can do, this is what I do when I want to learn from somebody, I want to meet somebody. Go to, if you use Apple Podcasts, if you use Spotify podcast, if you use YouTube, go in, type their name, whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts or get your extra educational content, type in a person's name. It will come up. Episodes they've been on, podcasts they've been on, things that they've done. Maybe it's on Twitter and they've got a quick, segment of what they've done or a behind the scenes deal. That is research. That allows you to get on the phone if you get the opportunity, or if you slide in a DM, or if you reach out on LinkedIn or whatever it is. That gives you opportunity to land somewhere that to the person, to the professional, it looks intentional. So when I get messages on LinkedIn and messages a lot of different places, I try my best to respond to everybody. But the honest truth is, when people reach out to me and they have either said, hey, I heard you talk about this, or hey, I saw you do this, or hey, blah, blah, blah. It's easier for me to reach out to them because I know I'm not about to have a conversation about what is player development? How can I get into it? What is your role? What do you do? I've addressed this so many times. This is season 3 of this podcast. We're going into season 4. We're about to have a conference. And I'm not saying that, please hear me out. I'm trying to say that with as much humility as possible, but also putting the onus on you as the person who wants to get in this field. You have to do your research. Don't get on this phone call or don't get with someone and you have them doing all the work. You need to do the work. So make sure you're doing research. Another thing, the last thing I'll touch on is, when you're doing this research, look at what they've accomplished. Okay, if somebody's a 40 under 40, congratulate them. If somebody just wrote a book, congratulate them. If somebody just started a podcast, congratulate them. If someone just, got a promotion, congratulate them. But look at what they accomplished and see what they accomplished. And maybe there's a quote. Once again, there might be a quote in an article. It may be a quote on their page. It may be some on their post. Then you connect to that. But look at what people have accomplished, because if you want to be in the role, it can give you a blueprint on what you would want to accomplish in the role. And so that's a quick episode. This, like I said, this is part 1 of a 5-part podcast series about getting into player development. And the number one thing for you to do is to do your research on the role and the people in the role. I will say this about the role before I take off. The role, you may see it online as pictures from community service or pictures at a career fair, pictures here. It is way deeper than that. I enjoyed all my time. I enjoyed all the pictures, all the events we did. That was probably 30%, and that might be a reach of the job. So once again, make sure you do your research on the role and the people in the role. And if you're really, really interested, you should come to the Player Development Conference, which is May 19th and 20th. It is virtual. The speakers have been released. I'm truly excited. The website, it's in the show notes. Go check it out. And shout out to our gold sponsor. Shout out to our gold sponsor, ATS, Athlete Transition Services. Thank you, ATS, for all that you do and all you do for athlete transition services and those who are transitioning from being an athlete to the next steps in their life, wherever that may be. This was a quick episode, but if you want to hear more about getting player development and my thoughts and other things, check out these videos here that are all on this page right here.